Can you find a vase? Oh, how pretty. Lovely color. Wow. That's very pretty. Well, golly, you came through.
So from here to here, maybe 2 rows. Okay, from here to here, and then when the person solos, they step forward a little bit.
You're asking me to try this? We're about to start, and this is a test to see if I'm too loud. Does anybody think I'm too loud? No. You wouldn't tell me if you thought that, would you? Did you ping it already?
No, she was saying something about, I don't think Judy's here, so is she aware of that?
She says it's okay.
We'll let Ann get seated. One, if not the most important person in our congregation. Good morning, Ann. Good morning, and welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Stuart, Florida. Today is Sunday, May 21st, 2023. My name is Janet Rader, and I'm your worship associate for today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, ethnicities, ages, and backgrounds. We are on YouTube also. Hi, YouTubers. To be put on our email list or to find out more information about us, go to our website at tcuuc.org. Note the email link if you would like to receive our online newsletter. Please silence your cell phones. If we have any visitors today, we would be delighted if you would introduce yourself. If you would come up to the microphone, then it will be easy for everyone to hear, your name and little information about you. Do we have any visitors today who would like to introduce themselves?
Hello, I'm Pat Warren. I moved to Florida 3 years ago, and I'm going to be moving back up north fairly soon, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Welcome, Pat. Thank you, Pat. Okay, with regard to announcements, as we've been doing for a number of weeks now, please pick up your, what we used to call the bulletin, the church bulletin, back on the stand to see what is going on. I see Tuesday we have hors d'oeuvres and movie night, which is not every week, so that's something to pay attention to. But please look at what's going on this week. At 11. continue our first Sunday discussion, mental health struggles. We will gather in the front of the sanctuary. Please do not bring coffee, but you may bring water. And this week we also have movie night, and we also have our other usual activities. A big thanks today for those who are helping with the service. Jackie Robbins, who is our musician this morning, Karina Poloni, and tech support Rachel Valentino. And to John Morn and the choir, who are going to present some special music this morning, Joanne Leone for the coffee and cookies after the service. Reverend Bob MacDonald is in the pulpit this morning. And now our prelude. For our chalice lighting words. You may remember that a couple of weeks ago, Bob's sermon focused on mental health. But today, before I speak about mental health, in lighting the chalice, we need to remember to be grateful for the love that we experience in this beloved community. May the flame light the way for all who seek such abundance. As I said a couple of weeks ago, Bob's sermon focused on mental health. It is common in most UU faith communities to offer many forms of pastoral care to people and families coping with trauma or physical illness. But all too often, mental illness goes unseen and unattended to. A few years ago, I learned about a book written by Barbara Myers, a UU community minister in Fremont, California. And this is the book, and I can't quite remember if I was in a study group or what. But the author is a very accomplished engineer, and she talks about, the book is entitled Held, and under the title are the words, Showing Up for Each Other's Mental Health. The author shares her own struggle with mental health difficulties, We're all vulnerable to mental health problems. The majority of people will encounter them at some point in their lives, whether they have such problems themselves or someone in their family or circle of dear friends does. Sometimes emotional reactions to life events can deteriorate into serious mental health problems. For example, grief can become depression, worry can become an anxiety disorder, and the shock of a trauma can become post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. So each of us has a personal stake in extending the care that we routinely offer to fellow community members going through difficulties, to community members enduring mental health problems. This book is a resource for members of congregations who want to learn how to be more intentionally supportive of people with mental health problems and their loved ones. Hymn number 1 is hymn 64, "Oh, Give Us Pleasure in the Flowers." We're going to sing verse 1, and then we're going to read the next 3 verses. Pleasure in the orchid white, like nothing else by day, like ghosts by night, and make us happy in the happy peace, the sword by living round perfect trees. And make us happy in the darting bird, that suddenly above the leaves is heard, the meteor that thrusts in with the needle bill, and off a blossom in mid-air stands still. For this is love, and nothing else is love, the which is reserved above, sanctified with what far ends He will, but which it only needs that we fulfill. And now our affirmation, speaking the first verse and singing the second. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is her great covenant, to dwell together in peace and to seek the truth in love. And to help one another.
So I couldn't decide which of these readings. So I believe what we'll do is we'll just read together 492. 492. Fragile and Rooted by Carolyn S. Owen Towle. Fragile and Rooted. Let's just read this out loud together. See a blossom in your mind's eye. Allow it to fill the interior of your imagination. Greater perfection of form in nature cannot be imagined. With inward gaze, absorb each wondrous fluted petal. Slide down its humid surface until you drop as the dew into its velvety core. Immerse your senses in this safe chamber. Such fragile beauty gives impulse to weep. Slowly reverse the journey as you ascend the shaft toward wider light. Turn your imagination around and around to see its many facets. Stored within is the memory of all flowers. Marvel that this creation, while utterly fragile, yet undaunted, boldly buds forth, turning resolutely toward the sun. We too shimmer with expectation, exuding our own illumination, color, pulse, and scent. Vulnerable, still we venture our lives courageously toward hope and light, at once fragile and rooted. Now the second is 556, and these are the beautiful words of Ralph Waldo Emerson. We'll read this responsively. You know how that goes. You get the italics. But I want us all to get these words. These roses. These roses under my window make no reference to former roses or to better ones. They are for what they are. They exist with God today. There is no time to them. There is simply the rose. It is perfect in every moment of its existence. Before a leaf bud has burst, its whole life acts. In the full-blown flower, there is no more. In the leafless root, there is no less. Its nature is satisfied, and it satisfies nature in all moments alike. But we postpone or remember. We do not live in the present, but with reverted eye lament the past, or, heedless of the riches that surround us, stand on tiptoe to foresee the future. We cannot be happy or strong until we too live with nature in the present, above time. As I read that, I thought Emerson was also perfectly describing my cat. But that's for another day, pet celebration in September, I hope. And now our time for joys and sorrows. We ask you to share yours, that they be personal and that they be brief. And a stone will be moved for you as you do that. Let me begin by the sadness. I hope you read in the update so you aren't shocked as I was when I got it on Friday. And that was, of course, the death of Richard Granat. I had spoken with him a couple times on Thursday about meeting for lunch, and the second call he couldn't make it. And then I heard that he died that evening. So Richard was with us for like a year and a half or so, and he really touched us warmly and lovingly. And we will certainly remember him and hold on to him. I'm meeting with his family on Wednesday to plan what they want for a service here. They want the service here on June 3, Saturday, 11 o'clock in the morning, and then they'll plan refreshment time following. I will need help with that. You know I do. But anyhow, we'll want to make that as fitting for Richard as we can. In a way, I still can't quite believe it. But in this business, as long as I've been in this, it happens, and sometimes it just takes your breath away. It did mine since Friday. Richard Granat. We'll move a stone for his family and for the wonderful memories that we will go on having. Also, let me update for you John Brown, our substitute minister here when I'm away. John, I told you last week, John's wife Maggie was discovered to have bone cancer, and it will be treated with radiation. They need to find out about a bone marrow biopsy, and that they're really concerned about. Last Sunday, John informed me that he had to fly to LA for a son. I can't keep all these straight, but I think this is John. John is the third we know. His son is the fourth, and there's a grandson, the fifth, also in LA. So he had to go to LA to be with his son, who was in serious lung difficulty. He informed me yesterday the son has come along well, and he is flying back tomorrow to continue to be with Maggie. So we keep John in our thoughts and prayers and best wishes. John, his wife, and his son, John Brown, Reverend Dr. John Brown. Now, who else has a matter of joy or sorrow to share? I hope I haven't stunned you all to silence. You're you-yous, you wouldn't be. Go ahead, Carolyn.
I'm Carol Hagan, and after that sad news, I have some good news. I went 2 weeks ago to Boston, where I hadn't been many years, and I had a wonderful time. The weather was beautiful. Spring was springing everywhere, and we went to celebrate the wedding of my nephew, Jonathan, and his new wife, Liz.
That's wonderful. Deborah.
I have a small sorrow, but it is overwhelmed with a joy, greater joy. So I've been cleaning out my office at FAU after 27 years there and 33 years in higher ed, and I have thousands and thousands and thousands of children's books, which I'm giving away to teachers who unfortunately, and this is my sorrow, have to keep them in boxes because our governor will not allow teachers to have classroom libraries. My joy, however, is that after 33 years in higher ed at 3 institutions and 12 years in K-8 teaching, I am officially retired.
We are so happy to hear that, Deb, for somewhat ulterior motives, but we're so happy to hear that.
Most of you know that I went on a trip a couple weeks ago to Ireland, and we took the singer from our band and his wife, who is one of the prima donnas. So a stubborn bastard and a prima donna went with us, and so we were I'm forgetting the name of the town, but in Ireland, and you go to old hotels and they have these old bathtubs. And so Betty Ann was getting out of the bathtub, and the non-slip mat slipped, and so she tore a ligament in her leg and had to fly back. She had travel insurance, so hopefully that works out. But she doesn't know what's happening, and so so we're thinking about her, and she's a bit depressed. But if anybody who's come and see us play, you've seen Betty Ann. She's short and blonde, and she's sitting there. So we're thinking about her and hoping for the best. Thanks.
So Stan would just like a stone to be moved for him. Thank you. And I have a joy. I retired my 2009 Hyundai Sonata yesterday, and I bought myself a Jeep Wrangler, brand new, and it's out there, it's blue. And that's my joy today.
Just in time for a teenager to get a key to your car. Anyone else?
I have a sorrow. I'm not going to get into it, but I've been having some mental health issues since the topic was brought up earlier, and I'm hoping that I will get past them soon enough.
Glad to have you here. Do you want to leave that flower up here? Thanks, Alistair. Anyone else? We always move one for people we don't say out loud. We all have people on our minds and hearts. Thank you, Janet. This meditation is by Ralph N. Helverson in the back of our hymnal, entitled Impassioned Clay. Deep in ourselves resides the religious impulse. One of the passions of our clay, out of the passions of our clay it rises. We have religion when we stop deluding ourselves that we are self-sufficient, self-sustaining, or self-derived. We have religion when we hold some hope beyond the present, some self-respect beyond our failures. We have religion when our hearts are capable of leaping up at beauty, when our nerves are edged by some dream in the heart. We have religion when we have an abiding gratitude for all that we have received. We have religion when we look upon people with all their failings and still find in them good. When we look beyond people to the grandeur in nature and to the purpose in our own heart. We have religion when we have done all that we can and then in confidence entrust ourselves to the life that is larger than ourselves. Ralph N. Helverson. And now moments of silence. Spirit of Life 123, we remain seated, we hum it once, and then we sing it once.
There's a short introduction.
talk now? Can I not talk now? I can't, because we experience so much joy and generosity. And now is our time to invite yours. Where are our ushers? We got two. That's good. Thank you. Oh, I know you're here, Fred. As you know, I often get help with sermons, and I asked John to sing a solo this morning, and he said, I can get help with that. So where are you, John? Do your thing.
Just take us a few minutes, a couple moments. And when you have your solo, maybe stand back a little further, Joe. When you have your solo, step up to the microphone. Come around here.
Which one is mine?
Start right here.
Here, and go this way.
Maybe put your hand in the front.
Stand right in front of me, right in front. Have to take my little friend.
The one that says
Careful with the, we're getting instructions from both directions.
And I'm going to play it through once. Then we're going to sing the first verse together, and Linda's going to take hands. Okay. You got it?
Think so. Okay, together.
Need to give us the.
Flowers gone, long time passing. All the flowers gone, long time ago. All the flowers gone, young girls that pick them, everyone. When will they ever learn
Where have all the young girls gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young girls gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young girls gone? Gone to husbands, everyone.
When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the husbands gone? Long time passing. Where have all the husbands gone? Long time ago. Where have all the husbands gone? Gone for soldiers, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
Where have all the soldiers gone?
Long time passing,
Where have all the soldiers gone?
long time ago.
Where have all the soldiers gone? And to graveyards, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
Where have all the graveyards gone?
I'm passing.
Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time ago. Where have all the graveyards gone? Gone to flowers, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Together.
Where have all the flowers gone?
Long time passing, where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago, where have all the flowers gone? Young girls have picked them, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
Thank you, guys. To me, that was an example of ask and you shall receive. Appreciate it. That song also connects us to next week. Next week, my topic, what is my topic? Wars of choice and wars of regret. And my recollection of Memorial Day is a lot of flowers going to graves. Anyway, it doesn't sound like a very upbeat message, but we'll try to make it such. The flower communion service came from Prague in the 1920s because some thought that Unitarians needed ritual. 1920s. I like to start with the history lesson we get from the UUA. The flower communion service was created by Norbert Chopik, 1870 to 1942, who founded the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia. He introduced this special service to that church in 1923. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bind people more closely. The format had to be one that would not alienate any who had left other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was unacceptable to the members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of their countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine, known, and beloved by them. This simple service was the result. Bring a flower and take a flower. Now, Bob's aside here. Ritual often comes from a mix of needs, not just religious or not mainly religious. A former board president here, about 10 years ago, told me that he and his mate thought we could do with some ritual without importing all the negative religious meaning it had for many. So we met in the small room an hour before the regular service, once a month, I believe. We passed bread and grape juice. About 10 or so came, and we took turns sharing the meanings of bread. It ended because we changed the worship time to earlier. You see, we often do that and hope not to alienate people, which tells you that next month we're going to suggest 8:30. No, we're not. But that's why it ended back then. In the 1970s, Protestant leaders across this country realized that Roman Catholic children in second grade received First Communion, and a family gathering and a party and gifts. And Protestant children were often invited to their friends' gatherings, and they went home and said to their parents, "What about us? The Catholic kids all got gifts." So Protestant leaders came up with a great religious idea. Give the second grade children a Bible and a ceremony with it. I don't think they got a party. And I also don't think they found the Bible to be the gift they wanted. So the flower communion came with a mix of needs and meanings. It was such a success that it was held yearly before the churches in Europe closed down for the summer. The flower communion was brought to the U.S. in 1940 and introduced to the Cambridge, Massachusetts Unitarian Church by Dr. Chopik's wife, Maya Chopik. The Czech-born Maya had met Norbert in New York City when he was studying for a doctorate, and it was at her urging that he left the Baptist ministry and turned to Unitarianism. So the Chopiks returned to Czechoslovakia in 1921 and started the church in Prague. Somehow they got separated, and Maya got stuck in the U.S. and couldn't go back to Czechoslovakia, and he did. And she learned later that his life was taken in a Nazi concentration camp, like so many. From the beginning, the flower communion service was adapted. People were asked to bring a flower of their choice from their garden or from the field or from the roadside. When they arrived at church, a large vase was waiting for their flower, and the idea was they brought one and took a different one, representing their links with one another. Every time we do this, we look for old and new meanings. So today, I want to show you some beauty I didn't expect to find and where I found it. Someone in my family collects cacti. And when we move from house to house, someone else gets to rent a van just for the cacti. Now, I hope we're about to see a garden. Are we about to see a garden? Okay. This is a garden at the side of our current house. We decided to plant a lot of the cacti so we can't move again. because we can't leave them there. When we had these and many others in our former house in Port St. Lucie, we had a number that were much larger than the one in the middle, which is the largest one we have now. And then the one you see on your right, immediately behind that bowl, the taller one behind that bowl, has some buds on it. I think you're going to see them in just a minute. It has 3 buds. One isn't making it, but 2 of them are. And what happens is they become this. They become this flower. It's called, I believe it's called Cereus, Cereus, Cereus cactus flower. And it lives for one day. One day. I had a picture of one on day 2, but I didn't want to show you that. It's sad to see. But it means we have to catch this thing for the day and enjoy it. So now we're waiting for one of the buds that's about ready, and we will enjoy it for a day. Now, what is the meaning of the fact that we have such beauty for such a short period of time? Well, I had this feeling on Friday when we lost somebody. We do often get the beauty of each other for a short period of time, and the important thing is to know that we have the beauty of each other and to enjoy that and to be grateful for that for as long as we have. Thank you, Karina. I owe you a cactus. Flowers are a way we convey love. Who has not sought the help of flowers to say, I love you? And in those early, tentative, nerve-wracking times, maybe they were used to say, I think I'm falling in love. And if they were well received, you kept falling. Flowers remind us of springtime and beauty and promise. And they remind us if we want those things, we have to pay attention, as in stop and smell the roses. There's a great hymn in our hymnal, not the one we sang earlier, the words of Frost, but one similarly beautiful. What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep and cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars, like stars at night. No time to turn at beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they can dance. A poor life this, if full of care, we have no time to stand and stare. Flowers rescue us from missing out on beauty. So today there are all kinds of cries to take mental health seriously. We are trying to do that here, and we'll continue our discussion here at 11:45 in a circle up here because the other room has gotten kind of small, 11:45. Walks in nature, times in nature, replenish where we need replenishing, but it's up for us to take it and not miss out. And this flower ritual came from an era of turmoil, fear, and hatred in Europe. We are keenly aware of polarization today. People with political views, our own family members whose views we dare not invite for fear of worse disagreement. Between the 2 world wars, Europe, from Spain in the west to Russia in the east, was an armed camp with street battles and militias posing as political partisans, and anti-Semitism across the continent seethed and raged. And leaders in America today who want the Oval Office say, don't read history. History is protected. You can't go back and change it, but you can choose to ignore it. We have leaders who want us to do just that, and freedom to them means we can ignore history, and we can tell people and teach our children to ignore it. We have billionaire heroes who rise up and get writ large, and about the biggest one today in America is happy to demonize George Soros. Because he's a Jewish philanthropist into progressive causes, it's all right to the right to demonize Soros. And demonizing Soros stirs up anti-Semitism, which again is all right to many on the right. I get a lot of help with sermons. And I was going to stop and ask who just thought not enough, but I'm not going to ask you who thought that. Janet up here on Tuesday at the park gathering mentioned a National Geographic TV channel series called A Small Light. Have any of you had a chance to see that? A Small Light. It's about the family who hid Anne Frank as long as they could. It's, I think, a 7-part series, and I think tomorrow night is the 7th part. It is gripping, and it takes you there. The 1930s and the 40s into the war in Central Europe, particularly Holland and the Nazi occupation there. So you go to on-demand National Geographic Channel, and you get episode 1 for free, then they offer to go on to 2, etc. You might respond, do we really need to go there? I've often had that feeling. Hasn't NPR and PBS given us enough? But what's in the air today? The guy who wants to help the human race get to Mars and pull all of us on the road electrically? He thinks anti-Semitism is okay, and Americans who want us to think they are patriotic and Christian and nationalistic, they're okay with it too, which leads me to think we've got to scream and protest bloody murder. No, this isn't who we are. This can't be America. I want to juggle 2 screams right now. You probably heard Reverend Al Sharpton eulogize the mentally challenged man who was choked to death on a New York subway by a young former Marine who has been charged. This is a sad case. That young black entertainer wanted food and help and got choked to death. A lot of money has been raised for the defense of the man charged. Everyone in America is innocent until. Certainly the man who died was also. It is my understanding that the UUA is going to decide and promote a new principle, the 8th, to highlight the horrors of racism that go on and on and on in America. That principle would urge all of us to speak up and to act up until all our institutions and law authorities protect all of us equally. I would prefer we lift up 2 egregious, historical, and resilient evils, racism and anti-Semitism, which are linked in the minds and hatred of many who think they get religious cover in America's dominant religion and who think they get political support in one or more political parties, because they do. Dr. Chopik knew that Unitarians offered a different vision of reality, and the flowers reflected that vision. It too is a small light, and it means we find beauty in nature and in people, And diversity means richness. It need not be met with fear. For God's sake, we're being told really that gay and trans should go back into the closet in America today, 2023. So many don't want us to remember the history, which doesn't go away. It comes back if we deny it or can't tell our children. This happened and never again. And we've tried to live so never again, and we hope you live so never again. Our flower communion is to remind us of a lot. Today, after the postlude, we'll invite you to come and take a flower, your own or another, and feel the link, share the link as you take it home with you. Dr. King and the UUA borrowed a mystery from a philosopher, a dream called beloved community. Some say it is better expressed as beloving community, because when we gather, that's what we want to be about, encourage each other to be about. And these flowers remind us, and I'm finding, for at least this one of us, I need a lot of reminding. And I count on you for a lot of that. Our last hymn reminds us all for the beauty of the earth. 21, 4 verses. And this one, we will stand and sing all of it. 21. Please be seated. As the chalice is extinguished, these closing words are a prayer by the same Norbert F. Čapek from Czechoslovakia. It's called the Consecration of the Flowers. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, The efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Norbert F. Chapek.
To preface my prelude to postlude, I'd like to thank you all for being here and being part of a great community, and thank CBS Palm Beach County for doing an hour-long show last night on hatred in America and on anti-Semitism and on trying to improve the situation. And I'd like to thank the woman, the Christian woman, who hid my mother and her family for 6 months in an attic so that I could be here now. In Poland.
Yeah, please come and get a flower and take it to coffee hour. Get your flower to coffee hour. Okay.